Hi guys, welcome to ET Land. Today I'm going to take you to AYANEO's booth at Tokyo Game Show on the 23rd of 2023. This is going to be a hands-on review of a bunch of newly released and announced handhelds from AYANEO. This AYANEO Kun TV cover is so sick that I really want it to be at my gaming room, but well, it's too big, so I guess I won't have the chance. At the end of this video, there will be a footage about AYANEO Pocket Air, and while I was filming that footage, I was able to talk to the CEO of AYANEO. So he was explaining why the design of Pocket Air looks like that, and he also explained some functions, and we were able to have a little Q&A section. However, since it was too noisy at TGS and the conversation was in Mandarin, I will summarize the conversation and translate it into English and put it into this video. Without further delay, let's get into the video. And obviously, the first handheld we are going to look at is AYANEO Slide. As you can see here, we can adjust the screen angles and we can slide it through with one hand. It is very light and I didn't expect it to be that light. It is like at the AYANEO Air level, but a little bit more heavier, I guess, but not heavy at all. As I'm using ROG Ally as my daily device, I can feel that the slide is a little bit lighter than that. The joystick reach is a little bit longer than that of AYANEO Air, and I think it is just about right because I think it is a little bit too much of the reach at ROG Ally, and I feel like this is just about the right distance. And regarding the buttons, for ABXY, it is a lot softer than what I used to have for AYANEO Air the first generation, but for the D-pad it was a little bit hard. It's a pity that even if I press on the Air button there is no reaction, and I'm pretty sure because this is still a trial unit, there was no function links to it. And this is how it looks like at the back, and here is the vent. It's quite larger than that of what we had at the AYANEO Air. And regarding the keyboard buttons, I saw someone comment that there is no space between the buttons, but I don't think it was a problem. It felt like something like BlackBerry's buttons, and it is a lot better than what we used to have from GPD Win 3. So I like it, but I couldn't test it because again, this is just a trial unit and they couldn't let us to leave the game, so I have no way to test it, and I really wanted to, but I'm sorry I couldn't. But anyways, the feel of those keyboard buttons are quite good. They are not too soft and not too hard, but if you are having a big finger, then maybe it is not something for you. And I'm happy to say that since they are using Hall triggers for this device as well, the triggers are quite good. Here's the top, you have two customizable buttons on both sides, and here is the vent. If you look at the thickness of this device, it's about 2 or 2.5 fingers of mine, so it's quite thick, and it's actually the thickest device at the booth. So if you do not like thick device, then you may have to think about it. But anyway, the grip here is pretty good. It's more prominent than what we used to have on AYANEO Air, and I think the grip is just about right size for my hands. So actually I really like this device, and I think since it is still a trial unit, there are a large space for them to tune it up and do some adjustment. So my rank for this device is quite high. Although they are just using an IPS screen here, and I'm not sure if my camera is capturing the colors correctly, in reality it looks very vibrant, and since this device allows you to adjust the screen angles, I think the viewing angle is a very important factor. I can confirm that the viewing angle has no problem, and I'm pretty sure that it is lighter than that of GPD Win 4. So if you are interested in PC handheld with keyboard and you want something to be lighter with a powerful chipset, then this is definitely the one you want to keep an eye on. But bear in mind, this is still a test unit, so there may be some changes in the future. And the next one we are going to look at is AYANEO Air 1S, and obviously I was super excited to look at this because I owned an AYANEO Air Gen 1, so I really want to look at how much it has improved, and surprisingly this is the one that I've been wanted a long time. I am going to talk about it at a few different aspects. First of all, for the buttons, it doesn't feel a lot different from what it used to be on Gen 1. It's just that on Gen 1 the ABXY buttons were so hard, and they fine-tuned the buttons feeling, and it is not hard at all. And for the D-pad as well, just like I mentioned on the slide, the slide's D-pad was quite hard, but for this one it is just about the right feeling for me. At least for someone who is not playing fighting games, it is really totally acceptable and very good. I mean, I like the D-pads here. Since it is already in mass production, all the functions are working, the AYANEO buttons are working, it is working on ISpace 2, and it feels absolutely amazing. I mean, comparing to ISpace 1, it is a day and night difference. In terms of design language, it's just inherent from the whole AYANEO Air series, and it doesn't feel that different, but they changed the position of the ventilation, and it's very obvious that they worked very hard on the heat dissipation because it doesn't feel hot at all. On my AYANEO Air Gen 1, it gets really hot sometimes, and it really doesn't get that much hot, and I couldn't feel that it is hot in any way. If you hear what I said for the AYANEO Slide previously, it can get quite hot, and I think because that was the trial unit, and obviously they are using the same chipset, so I think they will be able to improve the one on AYANEO Slide because they are doing a good job of heat dissipation on AYANEO Air 1S, and I am really appreciating that because on my Gen 1 AYANEO Air, the heat dissipation was really not that good. Regarding the screen, since they are keeping the OLED screen, although it is a little bit small, but everything is very clear and vibrant, so I think that's one of the best things about this device because of that screen. And well, I have no further comment because it is as good as it used to be, and I think it is just what we need for this device. And in terms of the IOs, I still like the top and the bottom having the USB-C port, because like when I'm using my ROG Ally, I always feel like that I'm missing something because there is only one USB-C port. Next to the white unit, there was a retro power unit, and I really had to look at it. Well, one of the reasons was that it was very difficult for me to film the white one, so therefore I have to film the back of the retro power one. This color really resembles the OG Game Boy a lot. So let's take a look at the back of it. The grip here is a lot more prominent than what we had on the AYANEO Air Gen 1, and it is almost the same as what we have on the AYANEO Slide. In terms of material and texture, it is pretty much the same as what we had on AYANEO Gen 1, so this is not glossy at all, and it's kind of matte feeling, but it is also kind of plasticky. However, after many people touching it at TGS, it's still not being very greasy, and it's not catching a lot of fingerprints and stuff, so I think it's quite nice. Next to AYANEO Air, we have the gigantic AYANEO Kun, and oh boy, this is so big, so freaking big. As you would expect, it is super heavy, and I did really try to lift it up on one hand because I had my camera on the other hand, and here you see I can't really lift it up a lot, and I have to give up because I don't want to damage it. So I decided to use my tripod instead. And actually, when you look at the texture and materials, it is very glossy and is very shiny. So if you want something that catches people's eye, I think this is definitely the one you would choose. There is a camera at the front for facial recognition, and their D-pad is very interesting because you can tilt it. If you see here, When you press it, it will tilt to a certain angle, but this is not a bad thing. It really feels good when I press it, so I'm very interested in that. And you also have two trackpads on both sides, and it actually gives you a haptic feedback for both trackpads. I didn't expect that because like this is my first time to use a trackpad that has haptic feedback. I use Surface Pro 8 as my daily computer, and it has one of the best trackpads in the world in my opinion. And when I use this trackpad, I feel a little bit weird because like it is not very smooth. But on the other hand, because it has the haptic feedback, it will not slide that much, like in a good way, because like sometimes it goes too much, you won't be very accurate on your movement. On the other hand, I think they still have space to fine-tune their trackpad in order to give a smoother but also precise movement when we use the trackpad. One more thing to note about the trackpad is that they have that texture, like a little bit rough, that would have a little bit resistance on the movement, and I think that's one other thing that makes the movement not as smooth as what I used to. In terms of the joystick, it is using Hall sensor, and surprisingly, although it looks very big, but the travel is not too much and very reachable. So in comparison of what I have on ROG Ally, I do like the travel of this Joy-Con than that of my ROG Ally. So this is pretty much about the front, and when we look at the back, here is how it looks like. It is very glossy, but surprisingly it doesn't get too smudgy, and I don't know what this line is for, but there are 4 back buttons in total, and there is a stand in the middle. Beneath the stand, we do have a SD card slot, and we do have some speakers and I/Os at the bottom. And here is how it looks like at the top of it, and surprisingly it is thinner than that of AYANEO Slide. It is about 1.5 of my fingers, and they also have a full-size USB-A port here. And because it is also a test unit, just like AYANEO Slide, it gets quite hot. In fact, AYANEO Slide was the hottest unit at the booth, and this is the second most hottest unit here. And I think because that is a test unit, there are many ways that they can improve. Anyway, if you are a giant guy, you'll probably like it. Okay, now let's look at the first Android handheld of AYANEO, the AYANEO Pocket Air. It definitely does not feel like this is their first Android handheld at all, because this is very sophisticated, and you can see that they are putting a super hard work on this device. It doesn't feel like a toy at all, and the grip is wonderful, and it is super light, so I really like those things. The design of this device is aligned with the AYANEO Air series, and they still keep the 5.5 OLED screen here, which is super nice. In terms of buttons, just like AYANEO Air 1S, they have fine-tuned it, and it is not hard anymore. The Hall sensor are just as same as what we do have on the AYANEO Air 1S, and it feels super good. The IR space on AYANEO Pocket Air is a lot easier to use than that of the one we had on AYANEO Air Gen 1, and it seems to be very useful. However, the key mapping function is not still ready yet, and I did ask him when will the key mapping function be ready, and he told me that probably by next month they will release the update and we'll be able to use the key mapping function. In terms of material, it is using the same kind of material we have on AYANEO Air 1S, and it is not glossy, a bit matte and a bit plasticky, but still feeling very good. Here is the I/O where we can plug in the SD card and the SIM card, and then on top of it we also have the top bar that there are 2 mappable keys, and this is the back. And because it is an Android device, the heat dissipation of this device is the best amongst all the devices I've seen in the booth. And as you can see here, the viewing angle is amazing. The grip at the back is just about the right size for someone like me who have small hands. Arthur also mentioned that they tried very hard to tune the color of the joystick so that it matches with the fade yellow color of an old device and to bring the nostalgic feeling. And the color choice of the buttons are also designed to match with that nostalgic feeling. During our conversation, I asked him why they chose the button layout to be in the Xbox style instead of in the Nintendo style, because like for most of the Android handheld, we used to have the Nintendo styles, which we have A buttons to confirm and B buttons to cancel and stuff like that. But obviously they are not using it here. Since they are using a 16:9 screen and they have a strong support to internet connection, they expect customers to use cloud gaming and streaming services. And with that being said, the same idea is also applied to the latest device with new Snapdragon G3X Gen 2 chipset. At TGS, AYANEO also shows the prototype of their AYANEO Pocket S, and I have to say it feels so premium because of their metallic shell, and because the screen is flat, it feels very integrated, like it is all in one unit. It is not like assembled. And there's one thing very pity is that it cannot be turned on and the buttons are not finalized, but the layout is very much like this. So the white unit, I couldn't press the ABXY buttons, and here they do not use the top bar anymore, and they are using the customizable buttons at two sides. For the D-pad, it is relatively soft, and they said they will probably keep it soft in the future. But anyway, since this is just a prototype, there will be a lot changes I can expect, and for what I have seen, I really like it, and I think it is actually the best Android handheld that I have ever seen. And I know there has been some discussion saying that it is ugly, but it is really not when you see it in person. I personally like the white one better because like most of the devices nowadays are in black, and I think the white one is more sophisticated. Even though I couldn't turn it on, you can see that I couldn't put it off because I really like it that much, and I think it is really a pity that I couldn't turn it on, because like if I could turn it on, I would probably stand there for a whole hour to play with it and to make more videos about that. Of course, I couldn't do that, so anyway, here is another look of both devices, and I tried very hard to turn it on, but I just couldn't because there's nothing inside. And going to the last device, we are going to look at AYANEO 2S. This is the black B-Duck version, and this is the first time for me to look at it. The Joy-Cons travel is a bit too far for me. The D-pad is nice, the ABXY buttons are also nice and not too hot, but still I think the joystick is too large for me. At the bottom we can see the USB-C port is already scratched because probably the visitors are being so hard on plugging it back to the dock. This is the back of it. You can see the B-Duck design is printed on it, and it's quite cute. I mean, like, I do like the design a lot. And here's the vent. This is about 1.5 finger of mine. Not super thick, but not thin at all. Anyway, it's still thinner than that of AYANEO Slide. And it is super heavy, like it is the second heaviest device at the booth, I guess. So here is me playing their pre-installed NBA game, and I really had no idea. The screen here looks really good because it is bezel-less, and this is their only device that is having such a large ratio of screen here, so I think it looks very great and very prompt. But I still had no idea how I should play this game. Like, I was laughing so hard at the booth because I really had no idea what I was trying to do. And surprisingly, the travel of the joystick is larger than that of the AYANEO Kun, and I have no idea because this is like smaller than that of AYANEO Kun, but the joystick is really a bit too big for me. And I was trying to look at the AYANEO Geek 1S, but someone else was using it, so I couldn't film it. But all the same, they are using the same chipset, so I was like, okay, I just filmed this, and therefore I couldn't look at that. Overall, my favorite handheld at the booth is AYANEO Air 1S because it is light and powerful, and the heat dissipation has improved a lot, and obviously the design is cool as well. However, if they fine-tune the AYANEO Slide, I may probably change my mind. And obviously, my favorite Android handheld from AYANEO Air would be the AYANEO Pocket Air because that's the only choice we have currently. But still, to be honest, it is actually the best Android handheld that I have ever touched, so I do really like it. Though I'm definitely keeping an eye on their AYANEO Pocket S because that's definitely going to be a beast. So that's pretty much about this video. Thank you very much for watching till this point, and there will be 2 more videos about TGS. And if you like handhelds and want to know more about how to set up these handhelds, please consider to subscribe to my channel because I make many tutorials on setting up handhelds for both PCs and Android, and I also make a bunch of tutorials on how to mod your 3DS. I hope to see you at my next video. Bye!